Good evening, this is Pine Leaf Needles, and welcome to LOTRO Players News, where we take a look at the latest news in LOTRO, and here at LOTRO Players. And tonight we have with us Andang,
Hey, everybody.
Draculetta,
Greetings, everyone.
and our friend from Wales, Ethelros.
Hello,
Why does he get a special title?
because I don't usually get one.
Okay,
Fair enough.
let's see. All right. Therefore, we now go into our news this week, and we have a good deal of news this week. So we'll start out with Bulbar News. They put up a Bulbar patch 12.3, and it was the shortest test session ever, apparently, because we were having downtime on Monday to put up 12.3. So anyone have anything they wish to comment on from the upcoming patch?
I don't think it's really testing so much as let's see what bugs are actually already in this patch that we can have for next time.
Did you check it out?
I took a look at a few of them. Main things being they're still trying to at least make the difficulty a bit more challenging in little ways. As with this one, I think I'm not quite sure what they mean by this, but I think what it is that mobs will use the more powerful attacks, like if you look at your combat log, they'll have weak, minor, moderate, mighty. They're more likely to use the higher up ones, from what I could tell. There was also the sparring timer, which, from what I understand, is actually done, or the change was made purely by from the influence of the stream Sequence does. Someone mentioned it on there, and it seemed simple enough for them to do, so they went and did it.
Yes, I remember that question being asked there. So therefore, we have a patch coming up, so when you come up on Monday, just remember that don't be surprised when you gotta wait before you log in. Anyone else have any comments on the patch?
I think the biggest thing that I saw in the patch notes that I was excited to see is they are finally fixing the issue for mounted combat. When your combat ends, your weapons will actually be sheathed now.
Well, if I read
yeah. Not just for mounting combat either. It's still a problem for...
Yeah, that was just annoying me when I would ride around with my bow still out and I'm on my horse.
Well, the one that will always annoy me, and it sounds like they're also fixing this one, I hope, is that when you start firing at the beginning of combat, you will fire your first shot before drawing your bow.
Yep, that happens to me all the time too, and that is semi-annoying as well. But yeah, that supposedly is getting fixed too, so.
So we'll find that out, all that out on Monday, and hopefully they didn't introduce any other bugs to counteract it. Anyone else have any comments? Andang?
No, keep going, finally.
Okay, very well. And if you want to get extra experience and you're listening to us live, or at least very early, then we have a welcome back weekend active right now, though we don't know when it's ending, unless somebody heard some news I haven't yet, but 100% experience during the weekend or however long this lasts.
Yeah, the only thing I know about it is that Sapiens actually said on their stream that the actual name doesn't mean anything.
Well, yes, that I figured. It might just be something to be active until the patch goes up, or some people have said it was in response to certain other events by certain other companies. We don't know the Mind the Turbine.
No, we don't.
No, we don't. Very well. Now, we also had and Ask the LOTRO team answers to questions.
Because apparently they're no longer 20 questions. They're now this really long title that's very hard to fit into the title on LOTRO Players.
Well,
I can't actually think of the last time they had a 20 questions that actually was 20 questions.
Yeah, so it's
They were
probably
almost
good that
always
they are
20
switching.
questions. Yeah.
yeah, so therefore it's now Ask the LOTRO team, and of course The first section is when they post the questions, and the second phase is the one we have now, where we get our answers. So are we going to do these questions later or now?
Well, we should do them now.
All right, here we go. And now there are quite a number of answers here. And
Go
we
ahead.
are going to go and check each of them. In fact, does anyone here know how many answers there are?
There are 42.
There are
Total.
42?
That's not the way I say it, but yeah.
Very well. We'll start with region revamps. We're getting revamps for Book 13. Any plans to add new region content versus just updating old regions? And the answer to this is there will be a small slice of new region content alongside with the revamps for Update 13. And there are plans in the works for a full small region in the near future, but sometime after 13.
I think it's pretty safe to say that the small slice for a 13 is Fangorn, and the near future one is probably Dead Marshes or the Past the Dead, or both.
I would agree 100% with what you just said.
Yeah, most likely. The question is whether or not they consider Drowned Isengard to be the small slice or not.
It's not really new technically, although the effort they put into it could be considered it.
Yes. So we'll figure it's either Drowned Isengard or a new section of Fangorn or both. So the question is, which areas are being revamped for Update 13? And they are hitting the North Downs, Trollshaws, and the Misty Mountains for Update 13.
Woo!
And that's quite a section there. Now yes, the North Downs has quite a lot of content, but it is so unorganized it's crazy.
Yeah, do we think that they're actually going to change the landscape on any of these things?
Honestly, I don't think they are. I think if they were, they would have said it, but I hope they are.
I
Well, what do
really
you
hope,
hope?
particularly the Trollshaw's Misties, that they do some terraforming on Middle Earth, because I think it needs it. Particularly in the Trollshaws.
I just hope they give Rivendell a facelift.
That would
The
be cool as well.
treatment, so
Mhm.
to speak. It really needs it.
I think at the most what they might do with the Trollshaws is maybe add a couple more quest hubs or something like little camps or something like that. I can't see them do anything major to it.
Yeah, honestly, I'm just glad that they chose these three, and that they're doing all three of them is just great, because these are the three zones I think that need them more than any other ones.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
And
pretty amazing just how much that they're doing. At least that's what I thought at first. But then I thought, well, they did a whole lot in Moria all at once. So this is really actually a smaller update probably than the second half of Moria in what they did. Because it's just, these three smaller zones. I mean, North Downs is pretty big, but the other two are fairly small. And so it'll be interesting to see what all they do with them.
now I just wonder how they're going to fit the level range for North Downs, because it's currently a very, very wide range that gets neglected as a result. So what do you think would be the level range for the new North Downs?
You can't do 30 to 40 because that's already taken.
I imagine
It's-
North Downs will just be 20 to 30.
You say 30 to 40. Oh, yeah, 30 to 40 is even dim. And one of the problems is that some of the quests in some parts of the North Downs leads you to Evenden because of the way the old flow
Yeah.
worked.
It makes sense then to make it 20 to 30, since you go from Breland, which is 20 max, you go to North Downs, then you go to Evendim.
Right.
And then if they're messing with the Troll Shoals, they can have it be Breland 20, Lowlands 20 to 30, and then Troll Shoals 30 to 40, and then Misty Mountains could be 40 to 50.
All right, I guess that can work. Now,
You hear that,
concerning
Turbine? Ethelros figured it out. Your levels are now worked out. Just give us a little bit of money.
So, so what about the eastern side of North Downs? How are you going to handle that?
Um, so I presume would be completely 20 to 30.
All right, so you think then that the proximity to Angmar is not going to affect its range?
Well,
No.
look at Inadwyth compared to later stuff, and or Eregion compared to Inadwyth. It's right there.
Well, yes, I guess you got a point with that. Though Eregion can't be any higher because you have to go through it in order to get to Moria.
Right, but I mean, you can go through North Downs to get to the Shire, so or to Evendim rather.
All right, very well. Any other comments on region revamps before we go on to kinships?
I'd just like to point out that we are up to 10 people watching us live now.
Ah, yes, our statistician, yes.
Yep, that's a new record. Thank you, guys.
Question
Yeah.
3, can we expect a kinship revamp anytime in the near future? And we are designing some features to weave into the kinship stuff into our housing improvements. They have been saying this for a long time, that kinship and housing are very closely married.
So I'm guessing this will be most or almost entirely done with the kinship house changes in that area.
Most likely, yeah, some of the key things are going to be related to the kinship house. That would be my best guess also. Any other comments?
I would like to point out a thing from the chat on our last question. Jordan Peterson did say that I don't know if they'd do 20 to 30, but it would make sense because then free-to-play players wouldn't buy it since they already have Lone Lands. They probably wouldn't bother buying it. Just my thoughts.
I think people might consider buying it for a second playthrough.
I think you kind of have to either do 25 to 35 now that I think about it, or have it be on the higher end of things coming out of Evendim.
It's kind of awkward.
It
I
is.
think Fretless did make a good point, is that it's kind of too big for 20 to 30, but not big enough for 20 to 40. And if you have
Yeah.
it like 25 to 35 or 25 to like 40, it's kind of in an awkward place.
North Downs has always been in an awkward place,
It has.
both geographically and progression-wise.
Mm-hmm.
But now back to the kinship things. Have you found a way for kin members to contribute mithril coins so that the leader can purchase additional storage? And it's on the table, and they're looking at a lot of ways that kinships can work together.
I'm hoping what this means is that it's not just with mithril coins and various, actual paid stuff. It's like pooling in-game currency to buy things.
Exactly.
And such stuff
Well,
like that.
they already
Maybe
pretty
you
much
can.
pool.
Kinship houses have a upkeep thing, don't they?
Yes, and usually and you can set up other people to contribute to that.
Right. So I think more stuff like that. I'm hoping is that's what they're going for.
All right. And now in housing in general, is what kind of updates are you contemplating for enhancing housing? Will mithril coins be necessary for all of these enhancements? And the answer is rather strange. It says, yep, we're still cooking up some improvements. We want to weave some of them into our kinship system, so that's right. But the whole point is they ignored the second half of that question. So
Yeah, but man, it's interesting that they're working this much with the kinship system to have housing worked in a new way. Because they haven't touched the kinship system pretty much at all since launch that I know of.
yeah, I don't know of anything. I don't know what one can do to kinships in general. I know everybody's saying all these wonderful things you can do with kinships, but I guess I haven't been.
Well, the main thing that I like from some games is that they actually give you quests that the entire kinship can go towards. And that's usually some of the coolest things, as long as they don't make the quest too easy. Some games make them way too easy to get. But
Yeah. I have a feeling that's something that is that doesn't sound like it's related enough to housing in order to be something that they're hinting at here. But who knows? And will player housing areas be added to Rohan, Aldberg style, etc., or other regions? And the answer to that is possibly, which is the most positive answer we've heard on this in years.
Which is actually quite interesting considering that only like it was a few months ago, I think actually they outright said on this, don't expect it, or it's very likely not to happen. And then they're suddenly twisting it, oh, it might, maybe.
If this doesn't happen now, I'm going to be so sad. I want it to happen so badly because, man, it would be amazing to be able to. I believe that Andeng is from Rohan. I haven't. I don't know
Even
how
though he's the champion of Eriador.
He is the champion of Eriador, but he's from Rohan. He earned the title in Eriador. But anyway, I really hope that I can have a house in Rohan because that would just complete my thing. And yes, I know I have a house in Rohan, but I want a real house in Rohan.
You don't mean the one that you won the deed for in
That's right.
in Adoras.
I want a real house. Give me one, Turbine.
Well, I suspect that I'm still going to keep my Hobbit house.
They are usually, at least now these days, pretty careful about how they say, like, maybe we'll have this happening due to getting, or burning themselves, I should say, on this sort of stuff before. So I'm not sure they would say this if they weren't at least, like 50% sure it might happen.
They are seriously investigating on how to get it to work, at the very least. All right, how about PvMP? I know some people here have been known to do PvMP in the past.
Mm-hmm.
Very well. Any chance to see the access to enter Moors, possibly buying some at Moors Pass in the store, and not only through VIP? And the answer to that is working on it.
Which is the first time they've ever said they'll actually do this.
It says working on it, meaning that it's much more than a possibility. That means that they're
It's
actively,
actually
probably going to be happening. And this is a good thing if they do fix the balance in PvP.
This is something I actually think will help fix it in itself, because the thing I tend to notice is that, like, talking about balancing, people say, oh, it's balanced in that there are a lot more creeps than freeps. And the reason for that now is that creeps can play free-to-play, they don't need a subscription, whereas every freep has to have one. If they do this, say, like, if it's you buy it like a quest pack, you just buy access and you got it, the ratio of freep to creep should be closer to even, and then people won't have to justify, nerfing creeps or buffing creeps on the basis of creeps always have the numbers advantage.
Of course, I've been in some places where I'm not too sure they always have a numbers advantage, but that's another matter.
Well, on Brandywine, from what I've heard, creeps always have a drastic numbers advantage. And so that's the PvP server right now. That's the most popular, the most vocal. That's the PvP server, and it's what's directing a lot of Turbine's thought, I think. And we talked about PvP, and we just lost a viewer. But anyway, I really do think that it's important to allow for balance as close as you can in numbers and obviously in the actual stats on all the servers. And I think that this can do wonders on Brandywine. It might hurt some other servers PvP, but I think it's worth it considering that most people are on Brandywine.
All right. And now
there is some final thing I should mention, because I don't think it's actually in the questions. They say that, and obviously some people have expressed concerns that this is like last true VIP only perk you get. And something they did say later on in the thread, I think Sapien said this, is that they are planning on adding a new VIP only feature that players have asked for frequently. And
Really?
it's likely going to be some sort of replacement for this, at least from what I can tell.
That's interesting.
Yeah, now what? Anybody have any guesses on what that could be?
Fredulous, what are people asking for? You know everything in LOTRO, so just let us know in the chat, please. That'd be great.
All right. And while we wait for Fredulous, the next question is, will there be a new PvP map? And the answer is not planned for any time in the near future, which is the expected answer.
With balance the way it is, there should not be a new map anytime soon.
We want to get
Yeah.
the current system fixed enough so that because to have two maps that are ignored instead of one map would be a bit too much.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I just think that the day they add the new map is the day the old one dies.
Yeah.
Because no one's going to want to play in the map they've been playing in for, what, 6, 7 years now, when there's
Unless
a brand
they
new
have
one to play
some
with.
type of leveling mechanic or something to make it be hard to go to the map, or you can only go to the map like certain. What they could do is they could switch back and forth between maps in each stage, where one season you're in this map and another season you're in this map, and you
Mhm.
switch back and forth. That would actually be pretty cool.
That,
Between
or if the new
updates.
map sucks. Those are the only situations
Right.
I can
Yeah,
imagine where
but
people would visit the old one.
now that I think about it, that'd be really cool if they switched off in seasons back and forth between the maps. Bring that turbine. I want a new map now.
I can't imagine that people would actually want to play in the old one. At least if
That-
the new one's any good.
That's true, but I think to keep things interesting, that would keep it in a cycle. So, anyway,
Very well. Any answer from Fredulous?
not yet.
Not
Oh,
yet.
well.
They're still behind.
Okay, very well. Are you planning a major Ettenmore's update in 2014? We're presently working on shoring up some of the fundamentals, long overdue stat updates. We are also prototyping some new stuff. No promises, but I want to see if we can get catapults in there. And boy, that created a firestorm in the forums.
If I can, just chill out, please. Because I know people like saying, oh, you should be focusing on the bugs, fix the balance, fix the lag, etc., etc. This is just like a footnote in the post they were talking about. He actually says, we're working on the fundamentals, and this is something he said before in the forums. I think I mentioned this in a dev snippets a while back. They are working on actual base creep stats, and those in corruptions and traits presumably as well. And those are things they haven't touched in pretty much forever. And that's the reason for the poor balance, is that creep-based stats just aren't up to par with what freeps have. Say, like avoidances, block, power, and evade, resistances, or mitigations, stuff like that. The base stuff is not high enough. And hopefully with this, it should help more with the balance than anything else. Catapults are fun. Also, that's a thing.
All right.
Imagine my walk using a catapult.
Well, yes, that does make it rather difficult for the wargs trying to use the catapult. What do you do? Put the wargs inside the catapult?
Yes.
Oh.
I
Well-
would like to point out that Fredulous conveniently skipped our question and went on to say that from his perspective, players do not want catapults in the Moors.
Yeah.
Just throwing that out there.
Right. Very well. If that's the case, then we'll go into epic battle skirmishes, instances, and raids. So we'll begin is, when can we expect new content in the form of a new multi-boss raid? And we got the same answer they've been giving us for the last 6 months. A new raid is not planned for 2014.
No
Yeah.
surprise.
Yeah,
No,
no
pretty
surprise
much.
there. They've been pretty much said that when they announced Helm's Deep, and
Other times before that.
yes, and then more times, right? So therefore, of course, that's no huge surprise. So, do you have any plans to make the BB's talent tiers more accessible, especially for solo duo players? And that is, as we map out the rest of the year and how we want to expand upon big battles. They're calling it BB. How about
I was
that?
just about to bring that up.
Oh,
Would you make up your mind?
Yes, we're looking
Please.
on.
Okay, Turbine needs to have a meeting. Take all the employees, get them together, and tell them the final term on all these things that you keep going back and forth on, because it needs to happen, or at least all your public speaking people. Get them to have the same term. Please.
Yeah, it's kind of annoying seeing him switch between them constantly. I think, honestly, he just called them out because the player asking the question did. And this is J.W. Barry talking, by the way, the guy who actually designed them. So,
Yes.
God, who knows
And
what they're called at this point.
well, I have a feeling they call them epic battles, but when they abbreviate it, they're still abbreviating it as BB because that was the original abbreviation, and they never got around to changing the abbreviation to EB, but it
Whatever.
does seem weird, of course. We're looking at how many new points we may be adding and also looking at the current cost of the existing traits versus how many points are acquired. In other words, we'll get back to you later.
Exactly. And welcome,
Good.
Braxwolf. Or maybe not, since you're muted.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm here.
Okay. Yes, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, and now, will epic battles be expanded to include more battles and or size options? And the response to that is, we're looking at locations and events within the roadmap for the rest of the year that would be suitable for new epic battles. We don't anticipate any new sizes beyond the 4 we currently support. And that one is, we're not exactly sure what they mean by that.
Well, the thing is, he didn't answer the right question, kind of.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Sounds like, of course, that the intent of the question was, will they be adding any new sizes to the existing battles so that, for example, that we can have a raid version of the Deeping Kum or something like that?
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, they did not answer that question, so we don't know what the answer is.
We did get the answer to a different question, though, which is actually quite interesting. Not only are they seemingly happy with epic battles as they are, aside from making certain adjustments, they're actually thinking of adding even more this year, which is quite curious.
Yeah. I mean, I would, of course, prefer a skirmish or something like that, but then, I'm Pine Leaf.
They haven't ruled that out, Pineleaf.
Yeah, I know they have not explicitly said anything about skirmishes in this entire thing.
You need to tweet questions at them. You have a Twitter now. It's part of your responsibility, Pineleaf.
Well, will Cardoom et al. Or TOO be scaled in the near future, 2014-2015? And J.W. Barry says Cardoom is not likely. It's old, crufty, and huge, so it presents a lot of challenges that will take significant time to sort through and implement.
Excuse me while I Google crufty.
Yes. Yes.
No, okay.
Tower. Is it? Does the word fit?
It's generally generic derogatory term for something that is hacked together, badly designed, shabby, or otherwise substandard.
Okay. Tower of Orthanc is more likely as it was built with scaling in mind. That said, there's a bunch of work we like to get into our instances when we scale them, and we'd like to do that with that cluster as a whole. There's some worry working to be done on Dark Knock Unleashed and difficulty swings to be made in the Foundry, etc. And while it is less time consuming than new ones, it is generally less satisfying to the community as well. Having all instances available at relevant at cap is still something on our wish list, but it's not something that we can commit to doing at this point.
More of this year, so at this point, there's absolutely no guarantee that we'll have any kind of scaled in-group content this year.
Now, Jeff Havney's point is actually something that I was thinking of way back when they revamped the Epic storyline. I was thinking, yes, they will turn Defense of Trestlebridge into a skirmish, right? No, they didn't do it.
I doubt that's going to happen. I think if it was, they would have mentioned it.
I suppose I guess you got a point with that. But I've always thought that would be nice as a skirmish instead of having that buff that I don't particularly like in there.
So regarding this question, do you think it's a good idea that they're not going to do, or they're most likely not going to scale Karndu, and that they're seem to be focusing more on Tower of Orthanc for this first, or the next one in the list to actually scale?
Well, Cardoom, I'm not too. it just doesn't sound like something that's going to scale. That's going to be able to be scaled very easily.
Yeah, I ran through that just sort of like blowing through for deeds and all that, and it's huge and not exactly uh, well laid out, I suppose I could put it. It's kind of you're not really directed to go places. It's kind of, here's a huge place, go around killing stuff.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
I would like to point out that Juahi from the chat says that maybe we'll get additional skirmishes when they revamp the zones. Defense of the Trestlebridge, anyone? Yes, make it happen. That'd be awesome.
I've already mentioned that one.
Okay, Pinely.
You're boy, you're not listening to me, are you?
Apparently not.
I don't want to be
This-
the downer for that suggestion
I'm
twice.
just excited for that, but it probably won't ever happen. But man, that'd be
Well,
cool.
yes, and of course, he wanting the all three subquests in 3.4 to be turned into skirms or instances, which would be nice, especially Dory. I would think that Dory could be turned into a
Mhm.
skirmish. Of course, object. Dory must still be alive, of course. Yes. Are there any
Ooh.
plans?
Guys, you know what they should do?
What?
Defense of Trestlebridge as a skirmish.
Yeah, that's. Oh, wait!
Gee.
Very well. Are there any plans to reintroduce the currency bonus to the instance finder? Nope. I
there we
think
go.
that sort of sums it up.
Apparently they added the bonus into the base rewards, so that's a thing.
Now, unfortunately, when I was doing my testing during the beta runs, I did not know at the time that they had removed the currency bonus. I didn't realize that until it went live, so I did not compare prices on the base rewards at the time. I just checked costs. All the costs went down, which, of course, since the currency awards went down, since they always adjust them whenever they go up. Okay, yes, of course. So the reward costs were also taken out. I did not check to see if they were taken down enough to compensate for the loss of the bonuses. And I don't know if anyone has any of the old costs from the old system. I will take that as a no, so we will continue on.
Ethelros from the chat says, you know what would be awesome? Defense
Oh,
of the
yeah,
Trestlebridge.
quit that! Yes, with the advent of the player upscaling for the epic battles, is it possible of being looked into to allow us to downscale? In other words, being able to downscale people instead of upscaling them, and pretty much they're saying that's unlikely, simply because if you upscale something, you get them up to the level, you upscale them, they're going to be a little bit underpowered, of course, because they don't have all their skills. But if you downscale, how do you downscale? You either have to A, take away their skills, which is going to really mess up their minds, or B, they're going to be more powerful than someone of that level, which defeats the purpose of downscaling.
Hmm.
And
That's a good
also,
question.
single level spaces tend to have certain assumptions about them, and it's unlikely to work out, they feel. Very well,
Generally
let's.
speaking, downscaling or scaling your character is a lot more awkward than scaling the instance.
Yeah, I
Right.
know in Guild Wars they downscale, and nobody likes it for the most part when that happens. I mean, they do like that they can play together, but I don't think they like that they're not as powerful.
Yes, that's the problem. You can
If
give
it was
someone
optional,
extra.
it'd be a thing, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can give someone extra powers, and they're all nice and happy. But you take away their powers. Are there currently any plans to ever create content for Northern Mirkwood, Gladden Fields, and the area south of Bree, and other unused spaces that aren't close to the path of the Fellowship, and Made of Lions answered, "We have plans for areas that aren't directly in the path of the main Lord of the Rings story, but they're prioritized below the major events for now." And I guess that pretty much sums it up. So the
Which
question
is
is,
pretty much what they've always done. Yeah, focusing on
right.
the main story. I mean, Dunland was a kind of sideshow, but it kind of did sort of tie into the main story in a sense.
In that the great company was traveling through there.
Yeah, at this point, the plot moves too quickly in too short a space of time for us to be dancing around in Breland.
Yes, that is quite true. We're at the fastest point of the plot, right at this moment. And will the destruction of Isengard by the Ents find its way into the game? And that happens while the Battle of Hornburg is taking place. So in some sense, it's already happened, story-wise. But if you've been playing LOTRO for a while, you might have seen some of the tricks we might use to let you experience it anyway.
Oh,
Two
you can
words.
imagine.
2 words. End
Session play.
End play.
Play. Chris will get his dream now that he left and is no longer playing.
Okay, so you say
you
it's
can
gonna be-
picture the ear-splitting grin that was on the dev's face when he.
Oh yeah.
so you're saying it's going to be end play instead of Pippin play.
Oh, it has to be.
Yeah. it's
I
gotta
hope
be.
so. Especially after playing Lego Lord of the Rings' rendition of Int Play. Oh my goodness, I want it so badly now in LOTRO. If it's half as good, I'm happy.
Very well. And does Turbine plan to take us through the paths of the dead? It's tricky, but I think you can expect to see the paths of the dead in some form. Aragorn's path through is described rather specifically, but I think your character will have a different reason to enter and explore the paths.
2 words: dwarf expedition.
Oh
You can
no,
use that
not
to go
another one of those.
That'll be
You
how we
already
get to
have-
Mordor as well.
But we haven't had dwarves in forever. No, elven expedition.
No, we had one of those in Mirkwood, so Hobbit
Man
expedition.
Hobbit expedition to the paths of the dead?
Dunedain expedition.
Dunedain expedition.
But they go in at the time of Aragorn, so I doubt that.
Yeah,
Ent
they're
expedition.
yeah, because if the Dunedain were probably trying to get to Aragorn if they went through there
Yeah.
again. Yes.
That has to do with the dream, doesn't it? I mean, I don't know what else it could. Because there's that sword that's in the hill, and there's like the water going. I mean, it has to be the Paths of the Dead, right?
Usually, when they have us like go through, like after somewhere where the Fellowship has been, it's like go after them for whatever reason, see if they're safe, make sure they're all right, or stuff like that.
Yeah.
Or maybe you need to tell them something. They could try that again. I'm not sure they're going to. I think their writing is better than that, but it could be.
He asks if we'll get a landside of skulls. If you don't know what we're talking about, watch the extended edition of The Return of the King, and you'll know exactly what we're talking about.
No, that'll be a housing item.
That'll be a housing item.
It'll be like 3 skulls stacked up, and you can knock one down. Yeah.
Perhaps some Hobbit Oathbreakers still living under the mountain for failing to deliver pies in post?
Maybe.
Right. Fredalus is coming up with some interesting things tonight.
Of course he is.
Indeed. I don't think there's Hobbit Oathbreakers. Failing to deliver pies and post.
Forever taunted with the smell of pies that they can never actually eat.
Right. Ooh, ouch.
That might not
is
be true, but
horrible.
man, Fredalus, I want your game now. I want your rendition of LOTRO because it'd be amazing.
Make no sense
Fine.
whatsoever, but it would be good.
That's besides the point.
Okay. Are there any plans for a new craft? There's
No.
not a plan for a new craft profession. Now, there has been discussed the possibility of allowing players to add additional crafting abilities to their characters beyond the 3 that come with your profession.
I'm not sure how common this is with other games. Honestly, I was thought they would be more considering allowing people to just pick which tree they want instead of being forced to pick a certain group.
Well, I know that in World of Warcraft they allow you to pick, but you only get 2 of them instead of 3. Though fishing and cooking are both considered side ones and could be taken by anyone.
Hmm.
So therefore, anyone have a guess on how they're going to implement it? How can you say turbine points?
Yeah, I saw a guess somewhere that you might be able to unlock additional. What do they call them? Not an entire profession, but maybe one part of a profession.
I think it is a profession. I think vocation is the
Oh,
group
okay.
of 3. Yeah.
So one profession and maybe add it on to your vocation. I don't know.
Hmm.
We will see how that works.
It'll be interesting.
Very
Mhm.
well. Legendary items. Will we see a legendary item revamp this year? We're in the ideas phase. It's a maybe. In other words, see how long it takes them to figure it out. Whether it's this year, next year, 10 years from now.
LOTRO
10
is
years
probably
from
gonna
never.
close down before we get a revamp of the LI system, which is hopefully like 80 years from now. So.
Yes, okay.
Isn't this more
Uh,
hopeful? The last time that somebody asked this question, though, I heard that there was a not in the immediate future answer.
Every other time they've been asked this question, they always say something along the lines of, "We're happy with the system as it is.
Right.
We have no plans to change it."
So this
So
this
this
seems
is-
like a little more hopeful, at least. Maybe they're hearing some feedback.
I refuse to get my hopes up.
Yeah.
Not now. Not at this point. I'm going to remain, curmudgeon, at least on this topic.
I agree with legendary items. I agree.
All right, very well. Now let's go into chat channels, mail, and social options. And chat channels. Will we ever be able to have more than 4 user chat channels per character? And this is something that we could do if there's enough interest. The UI and interaction design isn't set up to scale, but we can overcome that if needs be. In other words, how many people are really interested in it and how much they can get out of it?
Can't say I've had this problem, so
I know,
Oh.
I don't think I've ever used up all 4 of them.
I pretty much only have one for GLFF, and that's it.
Right. And do the regional and OOC chat channels transmit on the same area, or is one reaching a larger area than the other? And the answer to that is they are the same area.
Okay. Not hugely room for debate there. Is it?
Yeah, you're right, yes.
This is
Chat,
outrageous.
yes. Global chat channels have been suggested many times over the years. The Players' Council has even brought the subject up. Is there something we'll finally see this year? And they're looking into it. It's definitely on the radar. It has gotten pushed aside by other things more than a few times, just finding a spot to fit it in. Oh yes, that is always the thing about priorities. And could we please get a larger friends list and a larger ignore list? HorseDev says, I'll investigate. In other words, no promises. We'll see how difficult it is, and can we schedule time for it, and all that fun stuff. And will the in-game mail program ever be updated to mail more than 1 item at a time? The answer to that is, we're working on this now.
Yay!
It's not often you get one of
And-
those answers, so let's just soak it in while it's there.
And in fact, I got the impression that they're hoping it gets into 13.
That's what I read, yeah. So good to get an answer like that.
Yes, I know. I'm sure that is everybody's favorite answer, especially anyone who mails quite a number of things at a time. And it'll certainly, if they ever get the lotteries fixed, will help in those cases that we get just 1 lottery message instead of 5 mail messages per lottery. But first they have to fix the lotteries before we have to worry about that. Music! Will there be an upgrade to the music system to use MIDI instead of ABC? and there are no plans for such a change.
Mm-hmm.
And any new instruments? No new instruments planned. No fiddles apparently.
So, in other
So-
words, nothing's changing in music.
Nope.
That sums it up in a nutshell. So we'll go to miscellaneous things. When inspecting someone, you can no longer see their traits. Will this be rectified in the future? And essentially it says that with the class trait tree system, they're not able to do that anymore.
Oh,
And
well.
also, let's face it, since your traits can be changed on a push of a button,
Yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point.
yeah, because inspecting someone, well, you're going to kick someone out of the group because they happen to be on the other trait tree than you want for the instance, even though they could switch to another one in a couple of seconds. Because why else would you want to inspect their traits anyway?
I think people tend to do it for eligibility, like virtues, stuff like that. Make sure you're up to par in terms of your gear.
Oh, whether or not you have the high enough virtues and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it, as far as I know.
Yeah, well. What is the team's opinion on having just one bag? 45 slots, bags 1 to 3, free to all, another 45, 4 to 6 via purchase, and further storage also for purchase. And the answer to this is quite interesting. We are working on changes for Update 13 that will allow players to customize the number of slots in a given bag.
I can't say this affects me since I use Huge Bag.
Yep.
Yeah, I use Huge Bag also. So the question is whether or not this is something that may make me wonder if maybe I could put things that are stable into one bag and put everything else into another one, and therefore won't need Huge Bag anymore or something like that. So we have to see how it's implemented before we decide whether this.
Yeah, I think that this is good though for players that don't want to go to the trouble of going into
Yes.
get a plugin and do all that stuff, because that's a lot of work for some players, and I think that
Yeah.
for the casual players, this is a huge deal.
Yes.
And so,
Now, if I didn't use Titan Bar, I would probably say there's no way I could give up Huge Bag simply because Huge Bag and Titan Bar both have a feature that allows you to inspect the bags of your other characters on the server. And since I will still have Titan Bar, I won't have to worry about losing it if I dump Huge Bag. But first, let's see whether or not what Turbine implements has any advantages over what I currently use.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see if Huge Bag gets rid of Huge Bag.
It's always seemed
Alright.
kind of dumb that you had to click on 5 and 6 different buttons just to open all of your inventory, though.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
yeah.
an older MMO thing where
Yeah.
you see that, okay, the character has this many bags, they're able to carry this much stuff. It's that kind of a thing where you're trying to figure out how they get it. But
Yeah.
nowadays, that's not necessarily needed, and it sounds like that they're still going to leave it there for players who want it the way it is. So I think that's best of both ways.
All right. Now, why can't dwarves be wardens? Why can't any race play any class?
You're right, Pineleaf. We need to go storm Turbine right now and ask them that question. Cause
Well, while they have discussed the possibility of doing this in the past, it is not something they are currently working on.
why Turbine?
Eh.
Why?
Because
You're
they
going to
don't-
upset a certain segment of people.
Yes.
I don't know I don't know that this is a reason not to do it, but they're in a no-win situation here because
Dwarf Warden,
Some
though.
people
I don't
want it-
see any loss with Dwarf Warden, really.
I know.
I don't know. Well, I just don't associate dwarves with being avoidance in being dexterous and stuff like that, and that's what I always think of with wardens.
That's true, but their traits for their class should incentivize people to not do that, necessarily.
Well, I suppose so. Are there any plans to remove the old icon placeholders and doppelgangers that still are used for buffs, items, and jewelry, etc.? And icons are always challenging. we are working on sorting a lot of this stuff out. Apparently, icons are these things that there was a meeting recently where someone that Sapiens attended where they were showing the huge number of icons they have to keep track of. And that's why we get these orphans a lot when you're going through there, is because there's just so many of them they're losing track of it now.
From what I can see, all of the crafting icons for the was it tier 9 we're at now are the same
Those are horrible.
are the same as the ones before in Rise of Rohan.
Or at least sometime earlier. I mean, the
I think they are the same.
the red emeralds and the red pears. Excuse me. Very well. Will we see any more developments in the Lua API? None are planned at this time, and I should make a note here that Lua updates are never planned. They are a pet project by one of the devs, and it happens whenever he has extra time in which to work on it. So therefore, I have a feeling that they'll never be planned, and when they happen, they'll happen. And we just hope that he'll have extra time at some point in the near future. So here's a question for Horse Dev. Back during Helm's Deep Beta, in one of the dev chats, we had a game. It was suggested that key mapping be added as an option to the class trait presets, and maybe for big battle promotion presets. You stated you liked the idea and were going to put a request for this. Is there any update on this plan to work on? And his response is, there is a meeting to sort the details out this week. We have a lot of overlapping vacation time, so we couldn't do it last month.
Oh, they were on vacation. Typical story turd. No, I'm just kidding. That's totally understandable.
And will it be possible, especially January, December? Yeah, a lot of vacation there. You want to get out of Boston during January, probably.
Well, I actually kind of want to go to Boston, but it's besides the point.
In January?
Any time of the year. I love that city. Anyway.
Well, considering
Nice
that
to
the
know
weather
they
they've been
are.
having this year.
That's true.
It's nice to know they are still working on this, though
Yeah.
it wouldn't affect me much. But yeah, it's just nice to have.
Yeah, I was surprised that the questions came out fairly early on Thursday, because I thought they would have lost an entire day because of the storm that was on Wednesday.
Yeah, well, they were planning to have them out on Wednesday, so I guess that was their day lost.
No, actually, they were planning on Thursday. They said they might, if everything aligned.
Early on, though, they were actually planning Tuesday. But
Okay, you got a point there. Maybe they're taking into consideration the storm when they were saying Thursday.
yeah, and there's just all the questions. I think it just takes a while.
Yeah. Would it be possible to go more towards the atmosphere and and the style of the films? And of course, the answer is our game takes its inspiration from the books, just like the films do, and it's the atmosphere and style of LOTR we're trying to capture. Nothing in it specific from the movies themselves. And I should also add that if they tried to do something that was specific to the movies, it might upset some people at the Tolkien estate.
Yeah, unless they do it in like a Monty Python reference style thing that they've done in the past. I could see it like that, but other than that, they can't really do it, I don't think.
Same answer they always give with this question. You know, you're going to get similarities because they're both based off the same, content.
Right. But they're not going to try to intentionally shoot for the atmosphere of the movies, and frankly,
Whatever the atmosphere of the movies means.
Yes, and there are enough times where I think that the atmosphere of the movies I wouldn't want duplicated in any case. Just my opinion on the matter. I am glad that we did not see Aragorn being dragged by a warg during the Battle of Helm's Deep.
Yet.
Yes.
There's plenty of opportunity for flashback moments. Just
Community. Do you have any plans to set up another design a horse contest or similar fun contest? And not a horse, but we're looking into another design type contest in the future. So anyone have any guess on what this will be?
Have they done one of these before?
They've had different design contests throughout the years. Um, they've been through various things. They're actually pretty creative in how they come up with their community kind of events like that, and I've always been amazed by what they come up with.
I
Um,
would presume then that what their design thing is about is something they've done before.
maybe.
Yes.
It's
All right.
designed a way to get into the paths of the dead.
Yes.
Help us out.
Yes.
Fix our lore in the game.
Yes. Freightless was commenting on how the staff was probably taking their vacation at a warmer climate such as Alaska. And considering how it's how warm it's been in Alaska this winter, I could understand this point. Let's see. Have you ever thought about using polls for the community to vote for what changes, be it large or details, they'd like to see? And we have in the past, usually for minor things such as the name of the new servers when we went free to play.
I remember that. That was a big deal for
Yes.
some people.
I have a feeling they don't like depending on polls for many things simply because it selects in favor of whoever is on the forums. And so unless it's something that they cannot get their information through other means, such as naming servers, I have a feeling they will avoid polls.
Lilikate says the contest should be to design Gondor. And you know what? EverQuest Landmark is doing exactly that.
I think I'd rather leave that to the world builders. They seem to do a pretty good job of that on their own.
I'd just drop them the book and make a tiny little PvP ending insignia on part of the landscape. And other than that, it'd be the same.
Yeah, I was thinking that it was going to be a cloak rather than a horse.
Yeah. It's going to be something like that, I think. Maybe a dress, I think one of the podcasts mentioned. So.
Housing decoration.
Yeah.
All right, are there any plans afoot to streamline or improve the server transfer process? Yes! I can't really say a great deal right now, but the team is hard at work at making this process much easier and faster. And I'm sure a lot of people would be happy. Yes. We hope they're right this time. Not that it really matters to me, since my usual transfer way is to start a new character
Roll
and
awarded.
level it.
Just create a character on Landerville, Arkenstone, and a couple others, and you're good.
Yes!
That's all you have to do.
Yes. Sapiens, do you think the Players' Council is doing well? What can be improved in the PC?
What kind of a question is that?
I know, it's like, I'm sorry, that's...
No, they're terrible. We hate all of them.
I mean, if you're not in the Players' Council, how could you even know what needs to be improved? Like this question in general is just kind of weird, but I mean, it is interesting if they're trying to, change the system, I guess. But
Yeah.
And I'm sorry if you're the one who asked it, but I just think this is a bad question.
Yes. We're very happy.
Now I just feel hurt.
Sorry.
We're very happy with the Players' Council so far. Like anything you do for the first time, we think that there are things that can be improved. The Council itself gave us a list of things that could be improved for the Council, and much of that feedback will be incorporated into our next selection process. So, of course, the Players' Council seems to be a good idea. When will there be an opportunity for a fresh set of blood? And apparently, applications will probably be requested at the end of February, which is a couple of weeks away.
So get ready, players.
Get ready. If you think you can be a member of the Players' Council, like you don't do something like put on a podcast about LOTRO Players News or anything like that, I'm sorry, you guys, you are ineligible.
Honestly,
you don't get to decide.
The thing that has me most interested with the Player Council is when they drop most of the current batches, so they'll be keeping a few. And we'll see all the details that will come leaking through from people who are less than happy. And you know it's going to happen.
Hmm.
There are always a couple of people that, for better or for worse, are always going to be grumpy, whether right or wrong. And now, could the ideas brought forth by the Players' Council be more transparent? Not the answers, just the ideas. We want to know that our ideas are being brought forward.
Now that's a question.
Mm-hmm.
And this is a question the Council itself made. It's a part of the changes we're making to the 2014 Council.
Well, that's something.
And are there any more fun events such as Take the Hobbits to Isengard planned? And Sapiens says yes. We'll let you know when we have things sorted out. Right now, we're trying to get to the 29 servers for this event, but we plan to do more live streaming in 2014 in general, which is why they created a Twitch channel for handling instead of doing it on Sapiens is on.
Which makes me glad because, I mean, this whole dev team streaming thing seems to have become the thing recently, at least the recent few months. I hope they keep doing it because it is a good way of having not just getting outright information, but having just like a casual casual communication with Turbine representatives. It kind of knocks down that barrier a bit, which we've had built up over the few years.
Yeah,
Right.
It used to be, it seemed like not too long ago, about the only way they really tried to communicate to everybody was through those 1 minute, what do they call them, dev updates, monthly community updates. And there was never anything in there. But, since they've gone to these, it doesn't bother me that there's no content in those because we're really getting the meat out of the live streams now.
Hmm.
Right.
It's amazing how much has been coming out of the live streams, and a huge thanks to Sapiens and other devs that are possibly behind that. Thank you guys so much for finally communicating with us. We want to talk, and thank you Players Council for really pushing that point, it sounds like.
All
Definitely
right.
be looking forward to when I think Simeon said he'd be bringing in devs to actually talk in the stream, and that should be very good. We should hopefully get a lot more, even more details than we're already getting.
Lila Kate's trying to start a war. She says, "We love you and Pineleaf and the other two friends." And I think that there's actually 3 other people other than me and Pineleaf. So
one of us
one
is
person she doesn't even mention. So I don't know. I mean, she's really starting a war there, and I guess Dracatheros and Brax can try to figure out who that is. But man,
I'm fine to remain anonymous. I'm okay.
All right.
you are the one that's been forgotten before.
That's right.
Yes, constantly forgotten. Sheesh.
But now I've got a whole kin named after me.
That's right. Well, kind of.
Kind
after a
of.
mistake, yeah.
All right. Next. And final question. Are you working on fixing the lotteries? What is the progress? And the lottery system is currently down. Duh. The team is looking into it, but I can't have any new information on when they'll return. In other words, they don't know yet, and they don't know when they'll have time.
Yeah, I don't know if they're going to return, to be honest.
Oh, Fredless.
What do you say?
No one loves you, Brax. We didn't want to tell you.
I don't think that was heartfelt. I think that was, "No one loves you, Brax. We didn't want to tell you. But there you go."
Harsh.
Well, I was going to say that in a more pitiful tone. But
Feel bad. Wow. I'll just sit here and eat my popcorn.
There's some tough love happening in here tonight.
I would
yeah,
like to
I mean, first Draculeta getting ignored by Mist, then.
I would like to mention the next part that Sapiens goes on to say. He says, "While preparing these notes, the Players' Council suggested we create a new area on the forums to house all the current and past Q&A type features we've done. The feeling was these were being lost among the official discussion threads and dev developer diary threads in the other forum. This made a lot more sense to us, so here we are. Going forward, new requests for questions will be posted in this forum and will carry the question mark icon. When we post the answers, those threads will carry the exclamation icon. And he continues on to say a few more things, but I think that that's really good that they're kind of consolidating things.
Yeah, I might as well jump to the most important issue there, being that dev developer diary is a bit redundant.
That is true.
Well, yeah, maybe. But then, let's face it.
I would like
That's
to
not
point
There
true.
is no, there is no facing that.
I
Yeah.
would like to point out from the chat that Lillicate is blaming it on Lizzie. Whether it actually was her or not, we'll see. But
Very well. And now our next thing. Now we get to go back on track for the show. And that means
Doing a
store
show?
sales! Yes, we're on a show, believe it or not. We've been recording this for the last hour.
All right.
So, yes, we have our store sale for this week, and we have a special deal for this weekend from February 7th to February 9th, so therefore you'll probably only hear this if you're on the live stream, which is why you should be on the live stream. And that is that you can get 25% off your entire cart with the code 25NOW. One per account. So therefore, make sure it's a nice full cart before you use it.
You don't even have to apply your logic to that one, Pineleaf.
And we also get a free sample for the week, of course. And this is a rapid crafting boost, 1 minute for a ×3 of this for Craft 3.
Pretty decent.
All right, and we also have 25% off of several items, and they include monster classes, monster traits, monster skills. So therefore, that's for the monster players, I presume. And we also get, for those who like to move around a lot, milestone skills and hurried traveler.
So are the codes for the free sample and the special offer this week, is that proof that Pineleaf's working at Turbine now, or? Because they actually made sense in Pineleaf logic, so.
Put the extra effort in.
Let us go to LOTRO Players News.
Okay.
And we had the premiere of a new show. Ending. Do you know anything about this new show?
Why, I do, Pineleaf. LOTRO Players Adventures Episode 1 was recorded last week and put up onto the site, and it was a ton of fun. Basically, what we do is we go through group quests in classic LOTRO, where we're going about an average of level 30 right now, going through the various stuff. And last week we went through skirmishes, and this week we went through the Great Barrow, and next week we plan to do even more stuff. And we actually had, including hosts, 12 people in-game this week. And you can actually join us if you watch the live stream at 5 p.m. Eastern. You can join us on Landroll. Just send a tell to Staffting, and we'll get you in the group.
All right. And we also have another entry into our video highlights. And this week it was The Curse of Harperella. And actually, I remember seeing this back when it was first put out.
Yeah, I actually want to know your guys' thoughts on this week. Changing the tables. What do you guys think about this video? Pineleaf?
About this particular video?
Mm-hmm.
Well, this was actually probably the first, I would say, edited machinima I ever remember seeing. You know, there's something that was done by the community as opposed to a trailer made by anyone official or anything like this. And I thought it was a very well done storyline. And I'm hopefully that Harperella really liked working on it and stuff like this, since that was
Based on some of the comments she made on the YouTube video, it seemed like she did. So.
Yes. So yeah, I found it really interesting, and I didn't realize what you could do in game.
Yeah.
Until
Anybody
I saw-
else?
Yeah, I just thought it was amazing. I couldn't really even pay attention to the story because I was watching the animation, and I was watching how they were doing, and there were some places where I was like, where did they film that? I don't ever remember seeing that before. And come to find out, they actually made wireframe. What do they call it? They made like a wireframe structure over part of the existing game, like the forges in Thorin's Hall, I think it was, and made it look like a completely different place because they added some stuff to it, and they made some of the players' mouths actually move to what they were saying. It was just incredible. There was so much detail put into it.
Yeah, I was blown away when I saw this, how they actually built entire areas, and when you watch the behind the scenes, it's pretty amazing everything they go into. I'm totally amazed by this. I love it. Anybody else? All right.
Very well. Then we'll go on to Rue the Palantir has returned. And they have an episode here where they discuss Lost in the Deep. In other words, Helm's Deep.
Yeah, and a lot of this was actually a kind of rant, going through all the changes that happened with Helm's Deep and how he feels like because he had to go off into do basic training and do all that stuff, Ivan felt like he was just left it behind, and there were all these changes that happened with Helm's Deep, and he feels kind of lost right now. And so it was really interesting to hear his thoughts on the expansion from that point of view. And it'll be interesting to see what he thinks as the expansion moves forward. Right now he hasn't gotten very far. I don't think he's even gotten a level, maybe one or two, but it's really interesting to hear his thoughts on things. And I recommend everyone listen to this. It's pretty interesting.
Very well. And he also gave us a list of his various roundtables on the various creep classes.
Yeah, I should probably give a warning that the 2013 Reaver Roundtable was my first online talking thing. I don't know what you want to call it.
I'm going to listen to it now.
Yeah, if you listen to it, you'll probably get a chorus of me going, It's not pleasant.
Yes, that can be a problem.
Just saying. Also,
it is a good podcast, though. Despite that.
Also, the Warg Roundtable is like 3.5 hours.
Yeah, and Sprider's actually on part of that one, but she actually left, and that actually got her out of podcasting for a while because of how long it was.
Yeah, I could understand.
But, that's the great thing about podcasts is they always have a pause button, so you can take breaks. The host can't, though, so...
No, I'm well aware of that.
Kind of starting to be that way tonight, right?
Yes. Now, Brax, surely in this last hour you've been able to come up with something for a pick of the week.
Nope, no picks for you. Nobody loves me.
You're just not being picky this week.
Picks didn't happen.
No, I've actually been pretty busy with some other stuff outside of game, and so I just didn't get a chance to get a pick done this week.
Does
My
anyone
pick of the
else
week-
here have a pick?
My pick of the week is Ask the LOTRO team answers to your questions. Because, man, it's awesome. Turbine's finally talking to us.
Very
Anyway.
well. Okay, we will call that our pick of the week then. And of course, we also have donations. Yes, a big thanks to Duncan for their $10 or more donation. And also a big thanks to Tobias for also giving us a $10 or more donation.
Two
Now,
in
if
1
you-
week.
Yes, and if you'd like to be in this elite company and help support local players, simply go to the donations page where you can help support the podcast of LOTRO players and also help this site. We have $5 and $10 mentions where you can donate and get a mention on one of all of our active podcasts. For $5, you can get a mention on the podcast of your choice, of that we, of course, produce. And $10 or more will get you a mention on all of the LOTRO players' active podcasts. As for feedback, we don't have any reviews, but we would just love to hear some.
I would like to point out that we are one review away from getting our rating on iTunes, and so anyone that leaves any kind of rating at all will help us out on iTunes. So please go leave a review on iTunes. It'll help us gain a lot of traffic on there.
Yes, and I'm sure Ending will prefer something around 5 stars rather than 1 star, but
No, you can give whatever you want. Just give your honest rating, and we'll be happy. We just need one more.
Very well. And our featured comments. We actually have 2 featured comments. The first comes from Lillian Lizzie. Dear Pineleaf, Ending, and 2 other friends.
Again.
I am very glad that you guys liked the name I thought up, Monkey Dwarves. You guys are the best. This message is from Lizzie, and soon I will play with Pineleaf and Andang. Even Eltheros, Braxwolf, and Draculetta too.
Hey, she remembered Braxwolf.
I think Lillicate added that part.
I think so.
I have kids.
Stir
I know
our
how to
feelings.
speak. Yeah.
I'm pretty sure it is in parentheses, so.
Yes.
But thanks for the thought.
Very well. And we also have a comment left by Sue, and let's see, Draculetta, could you read that?
If I pull up the show notes, sure. Hold on.
Oh, you've been going all this time with no show notes.
Okay. Good show. Starting to feel the group dynamic is really starting to form. Area revamp, North Downs. Great. Trollshaw's almost certain. But revamp the Shire, they can't even mess with the way the hobbits walk, let alone mess with the Shire.
That's true.
I agree with Andang. New areas need the update most. North Bree would be good, a lot of empty spaces, and streamline those quests. We'll be looking out for you guys on Windy.
I think you meant
Very
all
well.
areas need the update most, because that would be agreeing with me. And I would like to point out that Lillicate did say that she added the 3 at the end, so.
Okay.
No, she didn't.
She
said
said
it was
that
all
in the
Lizzie.
chat, so.
She said it's all Lizzie.
Apparently she agreed when reminded, though.
My
so
chat's
that's
behind yours.
something.
Yes, it
You're
is.
Okay. And now, Sue also sent us a letter. And Rex, could you please read the letter?
Hi all, great show. We'll be following. Live unlikely, alive sure, both being wife dependent. Sue's actually really funny. I follow his blog too. He's
Yeah.
out there. So hope to catch the show Sunday or Monday. Lots of news to be discussed this week, and I'm sure with the LOTRO questions being answered, in quotes, would love to know when Update 13 will be released. Any idea? Oh, I have to read the poem? There's a poem here.
No.
No,
Okay.
poem's funny.
But March is probably when Update 13 will be released.
I
since
think that's
when it was released. I'm guessing early March just because of the patch for 12.3 being so early in February. But you never know. We'll find out.
We'll- Because they will probably have a couple of weeks on Bull Roar as
Yep.
opposed to the very short time they had for the
So-
most recent patch.
Yeah, basically once it goes up on Bull Roar, expect about 2 weeks after that, and that's probably when it'll be released. Pineleaf.
Yes?
I think that there might be a poem.
Oh, yes, there is a rumor that there is a poem here. Very well. And it is called Orc.
With a K.
Yes, with a K. But I'm not going to say with a K every time I say Orc in this poem.
There's an orc with a K on my phone with a K.
There is an orc on my fork. Is a bit of a dork. Called Mork from York. Feeds off pork and cork. All works like a rourke. That's orc on my fork. Working, forking pork. No pokem and no pokem pork. Porque. That Spanish. Porque. Porque. No say. Work. Cork. That orc on my fork. Forked tongue, orc twisted. Torqued, norking, sork, zork. Corky, orky, gorky, torque. Forking mad, that orc. On my fork.
Oh,
That was
that's the
awesome.
closest you've ever come to swearing on the podcast.
Oh, I'm literally crying from laughing so hard.
That was almost Dr. Seuss.
That was awesome. More
I just-
Sue.
I just
Please
lost
give
it
us
at-
more.
Oh
I
no!
lost it. I lost it at forking.
Oh boy.
That was great.
You can contact us.
Wait.
through-
Finish the email. Finish the email.
Oh. Keep on LOTRO playing soup. Now you can contact us through email at lotroplayers.mymiddleearth@gmail.com, and you can also follow us on Twitter, LOTROPlayers @LOTROPlayers, Andang @PVMP_Andang, Braxwood @Braxwood, Draculetta
Are you serious?
what?
Was that on purpose? Because I gotta know.
What's what on purpose?
You said
He doesn't know he did it.
All right.
It's Return of the Braxwood.
@Braxwolf, Draculetta @Draculetta_72, Ethelrose @Ethelrose, Mystery @MysteryXOX, and Pineleaf @Pineleaf Needles. Woo. You can join us.
There's a dog.
You can join us here at LOTRO Players. We go live every Saturday. First, for our show, for the LOTRO Players Adventures at 5 p.m. server time, and for the LOTRO Players News, live on Saturday at 8:30 p.m. server time, and that is United States Eastern Time. And you could join us by going to lotroplayers.com/live, and please join us in the YouTube chat. Anyone have any final thoughts?
Yes, a big thanks to our chat room. We've had a very, very active chat room this time, and for the 12 people watching us live, that's just fantastic. And let's try to continue to grow this as we keep going. It was a lot of fun being with the chat. We had the most comments pulled from there, I think, this episode. So thank you guys so much for joining us.
Very well. And that is all for tonight. So until next time, this is Pineleaf Needles. And remember to skirmish responsibly.
Defend, trust.